It is going live still, it says. Now it says on live. All right.
All right, we're just verifying we're up and running real quick.
Good.
All right, welcome everyone to the 034 Motorsport No BS live chat. I'm Javad Shadzi. You too?
So this live?
No.
Come on, man.
Okay. I'm Javad Shadzi, and this is Nate Stewart. We're here to answer all your questions about all things 034. Feel free to ask about anything. If you ask us update questions, we may not respond because we don't always have a good answer for when something's going to be ready. We'll respond to some of them, though. We take an OBS approach to responding to cut to the heart of the matter. And we like to respond as accurately as possible. So feel free to fact check us if you'd like. Just type your question into the browser of your choice. You can just leave a comment under the live stream, and our team of professionals will transcribe your question into this little box here, like a flat rectangle box.
Your magic picture box?
Yeah, and then I'll read it. So I promise I'm not swiping right or left, just looking at the questions here.
Swiping up and down.
Yeah. It's more gliding with my thumb. Alrighty. So let's see, we got questions coming in already. Will you host a Bay Area tuning event anytime soon? Yes, we will on August 8th, right? August 10th?
I think so.
Whatever that Saturday is. We are hosting our annual Summerfest event, which is here at our Fremont headquarters, and will feature my cooking. I'll be barbecuing, and there is talk of doing a huge amount of paella this year.
Oh, hey.
Kind of cool. My friend Stuart has offered to help do paella, and he's got some huge pans. And I would also probably grill and do some chicken and burgers and stuff too. There will be tours of our facility. There will be a car show / contest. Dyno exhibition runs.
Yep.
We will all be here hanging out and enjoying ourselves, and pretty much every Volkswagen, Audi, BMW enthusiast in the tri-state area will be here. So definitely check that out. We have a Facebook. You can go to our 034 Motorsport Facebook page, click on events, and you can see information there. Tell all your friends, bring your kids. It's a family event. Any updates on Climax tune for B8 S4? This is an update question, but we're about to release it. So
yeah, no, it's going very well. All of the feedback we've had a number of early adopter beta guys that have gotten set up with it and are running it, have been putting a ton of hours and miles on it. Overwhelmingly positive response. So yeah, we're in a really good position right now to just kind of get that buttoned up and out to the wild very soon. So yeah, it's going great.
Mm-hmm. Any updates on rolling Amax? Also an update question, but we have something we can say.
Yeah, so we're probably going to push. It's also going very well. We're likely going to push the B9 stuff, so some of the earlier box codes up first, and then we will be rolling in the later stuff following. There's just a little different architecture and setups on those boxes, so we got to go through and get those ported and validated and all that. So, but yeah, no, those have been working out really well. We're going to have a bunch of, there's a ton of fixes. We spent a bunch of time on that. Drivability, shift points, shift speeds, shift characteristics.
Just updates.
Just more updates and refinements that we've made over the years. And then adding in, people refer to it as rolling Amax, but it's really a super performant high-speed shift at full load only, basically, is what that is. So all of the other shifting, if anything, has gotten smoother and even better and more refined, and then it's just a much more performant hit as well. We're going to be also enabling second gear launch for those that want it. We'll have to see what comes of that performance-wise. We've on our testing, it hasn't been a faster option, but people have been asking for it, so it's there. You'll be able to select it based on what mode the shifter's in. We'll have more information about that on how to do it, but it's an option. So it's not like we're forcing you to have to do second gear launches or first gear launches. It's just you click between some different modes, and you can pick your style of launch and what works for your setup. So.
Yeah, we've had one of our beta testers use the second gear launch in the wet, and ran a 3 seconds 0 to 60.
Yeah, it can definitely do that because it can soften the hit, or it can get. It's just different. It's a different loading characteristic, right?
Right,
So,
hold on. You interrupted me. Oh, it's 3 seconds 0 to 60 in the rain.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
But yeah, that's harder to do in first gear. You'd have to really launch at a really low RPM. So, and then you eliminate one of the shifts.
Yeah, and I guess David Musnienko has talks about it a bit in his latest video. So he's been one of the guys testing the rolling Amax stuff. And that's Need for Built on YouTube.
Yeah, Need for the number 4 built. I guess this parlays well. Nate, can you describe what the Amax shifting is and how I know it's happening in B8.5 S4?
Yeah, so Amax shifting is just a strategy on how the shift is completed. So normal shifting, you will get it's a coordination of events where the TCU tells the ECU, "Hey, I need a shift. Can you pull out some power, please?" The ECU will pull out that power. Then the TCU will go through this series of events where it's releasing pressure from one clutch, bringing in the other clutch as the ECU is then ramping back in the power based on what the TCU is requesting. So what that means is there's a slight reduction in power from the engine at the time of the clutch transition, so that you get a nice, smooth, seamless transition. Amax, on the other hand, the TCU is like, nope, you can keep giving me all the power. I'm just going to give you the clutches right now, and basically flips from one clutch to the other, and that's the extent of the shift. It's it. So you usually get a little more of almost like a lurch into that next gear because you get all that kinetic energy, you get all that load from the engine still present. And you're just literally bouncing on the next clutch, and there's no reduction in power.
The first time I experienced it sort of either felt like a slipping clutch, or when you're speed shifting in a manual transmission. There's a technique that I used to use a lot where during the shift you clutch in, but you let the RPM go a little bit higher than you need to, and then you slam, you shift and you slam the clutch, engage the clutch, and that extra mass or rotational force loads up the flywheel, and then that flywheel dumps all the energy into the clutch, and so you get this kind of surge of acceleration, and you can see it on a data log, a little blip of acceleration.
Yeah, and you'll get some of that here too, right? Because when you click into that next gear, the engine RPM is going to be 1,000, 500, 700 RPM higher than the next gear. So you've got all that inertial, or that energy stored in the flywheel, the rotating mass of the engine. Then you've got to pull that back down with the other clutch, which is also going to accelerate the vehicle while it's doing it. So that's where that little lurch will come from between gears.
It's really noticeable. The first time I felt it was in the stock B9 S4.
Yep.
And when you would do a launch, it would go do Amax.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Amax shifting strategy is only on launch, where it's going to come into play on the B8. Yeah. So it's only from a dig or with actual launch control. It doesn't have to be advanced. It doesn't have to be our advanced launch or anything like that. It can be stock style. It can be ours. It can be whatever. But it's from a launch, and then basically until you lift, it's going to be the Amax strategy.
And it stands for acceleration.
Maximum acceleration. Yeah. It's just what the standard terminology in the Temic world, or Bosch or BAG, whichever way you want to go with.
Another question about 4MQ7 tuning. We're very close to releasing that. Follow-up question: will you have clutch delete tunes available?
Yep. They're done.
We do, so we haven't said anything about this, but some of you guys may have seen or heard that we released our CREC clutch deletes a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and we released a titanium and a steel version. But as we entered the manufacturing process, we decided to remove some additional weight. And one of the competitors out there was trying to nail us on the weight of our pulleys. And so we're like, you know what? He's right. So you know who you are. Thank you for your suggestion. And we did remove a substantial amount of material. I believe these are the absolute lightest and strongest units on the market. The billet steel version, which is this, is 1.8 pounds. And the titanium version is now 1 pound. I mean, this thing is really light. The factory OE clutch is 4 pounds. So
yeah, they're pretty thick.
Yeah, and you have the benefit of steel or titanium, especially when it comes to the splines here. You want that extra shear strength in there, so that you don't strip out those splines when you're making all that boost. So these are now basically we're processing these and receiving right now. And if you've placed a pre-order, which we've sold a lot of pre-orders, those will be shipping out this week. So thanks for your support on these. The tune is coming, and when we're ready to release that, like I said, very soon. I've been driving on it for months. It's awesome. The E85 is obviously very fast. We set a world record draggy run last week in it. Good job, Sean. Went out to Mexico and did that. But I really like driving on the 91 file. It just feels like it's how the car should have come from the factory. Let us know if you have any questions on these. These are for sale on our website, ready to go. Actually, related to that, we have, I'd say, the most complete line of B8 supercharged crank pulleys on the market. So those are available. And due to some improvements in pricing, we have substantially dropped the price of our supercharger pulley.
Oh, nice.
Great. So it should be very competitive, price competitive with everything on the market. And you want to be careful out there. This isn't just a simple part. There's aerospace tolerances on the press fit here. And so we hear a lot of complaints from customers who come to us from some other 3-letter acronym tuning companies with problems with these. So, but if this is a very precisely ground taper, if this is not done correctly, you won't be able to install it. It'll either be too loose and spin, or it will never fully seat. So it is literally in the 10,000th range tolerances. The 10th, as a machinist would say. Can I bring my car to the Fremont location for the climax update for the S4? Yes, anything that we sell or offer can be supplied
Service through
our service departments. You could also do it using our
we've got a lot of easy options.
SPI tuning dongle. With your stage 1 tune on an S4, does the drive select differ in the tune?
I'm not sure which generation S4 we're referring to here. I mean, the drive select is still in play. It's going to depend on if we're talking B8 or B9, exactly kind of how things work. Generally, it's not as obnoxious when you put it into dynamic mode versus the stock version. But again, it's going to depend on B8 versus B9 into how that all works. Try and put your application if you have a specific question like this.
Any plans on bringing the 034 SPI application to the MMI system? Feels like there's a great real estate that can be utilized.
Yeah, we talk about this a bit. There's a lot of great real estate. The challenge comes in with working within the CarPlay and the Android Auto ecosystems. There's very purposefully some things that they do that make it difficult to make it a very interactive system. So we'll likely bring some interface to it, but it may not be quite what you're hoping as far as like full live gauges and a bunch of really awesome, nice real estate there to show all this real time data on. There's generally quite a delay for one in the data being shown, and there's also a very limited amount of updates and types of displays you can show up there. So we're going to try and balance what we can and make the most sense out of it for an interface. But yeah, right now they don't have very good interfaces to make like a full live display, live gauge display.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate regarding PCV catch cans for the RS3s that most of them do not work correctly. Does the 0-4 one work correctly on 800 horsepower applications? Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know about this debate. I know there's been confusion about catch cans and how they work and what they do for a long time on the internet. For the DAZA, we do offer a catch can. It's a relatively simple device. So from the factory, there's the crankcase, and then there's a PCV plate that sits on top of the motor inside the valve cover. And so pressurized crankcase, gases, mostly air, flow through the PCV plate, and factory, they go directly from the PCV plate to the turbo inlet. And so that means that if there's any oil or oil vapor, anything coming out of the crankcase that's not just air, it goes into the turbo inlet. And there's also a connection from the intake manifold to this plate that creates vacuum from the intake manifold when the turbo is not creating boost. So like under light load cruising conditions, crankcase fumes are sucked into the intake system and recycled and burnt through the combustion process to further deal with some of the byproducts, combustible byproducts in the crankcase. So they either go back into the turbo inlet and are sucked into the motor, or they get sucked directly into the intake manifold. Now, when you're under boost, the intake manifold is pressurized. You do not want to put pressurized boost into the crankcase. So there's a check valve that shuts when the turbo creates boost. And then the crankcase vacuum is created by the low pressure vacuum area in front of the turbo compressor. So our catch can simply intercepts the exit of the PCV system. The PCV system is now directed into our catch can, where there's a series of channels that direct air and oil vapors to collect on the side walls of the can. Those are allowed to drain back to the crankcase, and clean air flows back to the turbo inlet. So our catch can does work. I don't think the amount of power you make and how much piston ring sealing you have certainly comes into play. I don't see any problem with an 800 horsepower, say like with a TTE hybrid or something similar, tracking with our catch can. I don't see a problem with that. But if you do have a forged bottom end and pistons with larger ring clearances, you are going to get a lot more blow by. And so at some point you may need kind of a bigger custom racing catch can setup that's going to be bespoke. It's got to be custom designed for whatever you're doing with the car. Our catch can kit is designed for, we don't have a application we don't recommend it for. We haven't seen that yet, but it's possible that it doesn't work on super high output, really high boost applications, or it doesn't offer enough ability to collect enough oil. Because on some of those really extreme builds, you're going to be pumping a lot of oil out of the motor. So you're going to need a really big catch can to deal with that. But no, our kit works. We've tested it, and it does help prevent oil from the PCV system getting back into the turbo inlet. That's what it's designed to do. I have a 2018 S4 034 Stage 2 full kit. Just installed a boost gauge and wondering what is the optimal peak boost with that tune. I want to make sure I don't have too much boost and hurt the engine. Thanks. Well, we address this a lot here on the live. There isn't really a peak boost spec that we can tell you because the ECU will vary boost depending on conditions. That might sound like a cop out, but we don't quote like a given boost level because there really isn't one. However, if you'd like to do some logs,
I was going to mention how close that was.
that was like I don't know how that's
it's in frame.
If you would like to make sure that you're safe and that you're not running too much boost, then you can do some logs with our customer service tuning support team, and they will be happy to advise you on the safety of your tune across the board, not just the boost level.
And I don't know. Also, some kits are different than others on where it taps for the boost pressure. Some are like pre-throttle body, some are post, some are. So you got to be careful where that's installed too. If you got a pre-throttle body one, you're going to see some crazy spikes in boost on when the throttle is moving around and closing. That's not actually getting into the engine. So you got to be careful sometimes on the actual installation too. It can be misleading.
What do you think about a bigger high pressure fuel pump on B9 instead of bigger injectors?
You need both.
Yeah,
you got to have. There's no single point of increase on these. When you exceed the range of one, you're running into the limits of the other.
Yeah, they do different things. You have on one side, and if you want to study the difference between pressure and flow, that will tell you everything you need to know. Pressure helps increase flow up to a certain point, but you in these kind of tuning applications, you can't take a stock injector and keep cranking the pressure up. You'll never create enough flow doing that. So you do need bigger injectors and a bigger high pressure fuel pump. You just need both. And that's essentially what MPI accomplishes, is it adds more flow through extra injectors and a different fuel pump. But yeah, you need max flow as well. So we're working on all of it.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone thinks that you look like Jason Statham.
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
It's a little early for that kind of saucery.
When will Street Sport mounts for B9 be available? I don't know if we have a release date, but they are in manufacturing right now. Should be soon. Not too far off. Did I show them off like last week?
We did a few weeks ago. We've been talking to David about it, so that's why he asked.
Okay.
They feel great.
Yeah, no, actually, the Street Sport mounts feel very good. In fact, they are very streetable. If you're willing to accept a little bit of NVH increase, it's a very solid mount for the amount of NVH. That's a very smooth motor. The 3-liter turbo V6, the EA839 is a very smooth motor. So we will also offer a track version too for the absolute stiffest mount. AL552 rolling Amax is an absolute game changer. 034 has blown the TCU tuning out of the world by dialing in every factor. My face hurts from the acceleration. Ew. Oh, great to hear. Thank you. Will rolling Amax touch the AL551?
Very likely, yeah. We have a lot of AL551 stuff that we have in the works as well. So yes, there's all kinds of updates coming there. But we got to get 552 stuff wrapped up first. So yeah, it'll be B9. There'll be some RS5 applications coming as well, and then the B9.5 stuff will start rolling. Both S4 and RS5 too.
Well, let's tackle this one. There's been a lot of talk recently about your tunes having too much timing causing knocks, supposedly on 93 files for B8 S4 cars. What y'all have to say in regards to this nonsense?
It's not. I mean, I wouldn't call it nonsense. If they're seeing a bunch of knock activity, that's something we obviously don't want to see. But it's also, you have to factor in what the spread of cars is that are doing it versus how many we have out there and whether if it's an isolated thing, if it's an overall tuning strategy thing. Those are things we have to weigh, and it's all, you know, in the numbers. I guess you gotta kind of take that into consideration when we're trying to figure out what the best path for a given vehicle or given setup is. So, you know, we have multiple octanes available on the server, or multiple octane files available on the server. So if we have a car that's performing differently, or, you know, just for whatever reason, with whatever configuration of parts and hardware and the health of whatever's in there, they may need to run a slightly lower octane tune from time to time, depending on what the logs look like, what the data looks like. I mean, we could go in and, you know, tweak a file for some of these as well if we need to, but that would end up being ultimately probably what one step down in octane is generally anyway for a given tune. So it's like, you know, you can either relabel a, you know, tune that's got a few degrees pulled out, or have run the tune that's got a few degrees pulled out. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the vast majority of the data we see is fine, and not something we are concerned with. If it was a overall trend, we will absolutely go in and look at the strategy and work on things. We always do. We revise things as needed. But I want to say that the general timing maps on 91, 93, and whatnot on B8s haven't changed in years.
Well, I was going to say that, you know, one, we have complete control of the timing maps.
Yeah.
And all the tunes that we offer. There's no tune where we are limited in what we can do with timing. The B8 S4 tune specifically is going on 10 years old now, and we have been,
and it's been refined and revised and updated. A bunch of years. I
mean, I don't know. It would be absurd to think that we somehow have just been running too much timing in this tune for 8 years now and didn't realize it, or we're too dumb to know it or something. I mean, that's just the most absurd explanation, right? So, if someone is claiming, which there's a troll out there, very well known B8 troll, who is trying to make it sound like we just didn't know that there was too much timing and we haven't figured it out yet, and that's why it's possible that this one person felt like they had too much timing correction. That's just absurd. That's the least logical explanation to the problem. So, anyways, yeah, no.
So yeah, I mean,
our timing is very highly optimized, but like Nate said, there are certain setups or conditions that could create some variance, which is why our ECU has full ability to correct for timing. Full factory safety features. We don't dumb it down at all.
Yeah, and you'll generally always see some activity on pump gas. I think I've seen a log where if you're seeing zero corrections all the time on a 91 or 93 file, that's usually either way too far the other way, or things are desensitized to the point where it's not picking up what would be normal activity. So there's a bunch of factors that come into play with what knock correction is and what knock correction is normal. So, I mean, yeah, you can run a stock motor. You'll see a bunch of corrections on a 91 file, or a 90. Well, so a stock tune's set up for 91 octane. You'll still see corrections on 91, 93, you name it. So some corrections are very normal. We do not like to see a lot of corrections, and we will tell you that in the logs. It's why we have so much data logging and so much resource available to all of our customers. We want to ensure things are running correctly, and it's on the recommendation. We'll recommend some diagnostic stuff typically to see if everything's healthy, if everything seems right, if it's just a outlier. We have to try different octane calibrations, or just ensure everything's healthy. If we're out of options, we'll absolutely start going outside the box and setting things up that are maybe a little more bespoke for a given situation. But generally, I don't think we've had a situation where we've had to do that in a very long time.
If you have any concerns about your timing or your knock correction, please contact us.
Yeah, we have.
If you go to the internet and engage with the troll of our competitor, you're not going to get good advice. Okay, and you're going to be manipulated. They're going to try to manipulate you into thinking that there's something wrong with our tune or we did something wrong.
Right.
And that's a competitive tactic that they like to take. That's not necessarily what we do out on the internet, but just be forewarned that those people do not have good intentions towards you. You are our customer, so we have extremely good intentions.
Yeah.
In fact, we've already gotten your money, and we will now support you for free for as long as you need it. Like, we're not going to make any money if you come to our support. In fact, we will only spend money supporting you. So, we have great intentions towards you, but these other people don't. And I just hope that that's obvious, but sometimes I don't think
Yeah, it's a struggle. And then, we have by far the most available and accessible data collection tools of any provider in this market. So, I mean, we are not here to hide anything. We're not here to just sling you a file and run the other way. We stand behind it. We will, ensure things are running as optimally as possible for every situation. And, there's a bunch of ways for a given setup that resolution might be found, but we strive to make sure everything is running as best as possible on every situation. So.
Yeah. All right. I think that's
we're very data driven, so we're not going to just sit there and sling.
Yeah, our tune is exactly how it is for a reason, and then there are external factors as well. Some of the tuners, they just don't have good tunes, and so they have to customize every single tune they sell, and the customer flashes it to their car, and then they have to do logs and send them back to the tuner, and the tuner makes modifications to the tune until hopefully the customer is happy. Our tune is production. It's the best in the industry. It's off the shelf.
And then, and to that end too, usually those tweaks and customizations are done with fairly poor data, with rudimentary logging, with rudimentary data collection stuff.
Really slow logging that doesn't capture enough data.
There to date is not a solution on the market that captures as much or as quick data as we can.
That's right. But the trolls will say whatever they want. They'll try to make you question the reality.
Yeah. And of course, we want you to just flash the file and have it run perfectly every time. But
that is what happens. Like 98%.
The noise or the right. That's the vast majority. Or you're not going to hear about those cars. You're not going to hear about the guys that just flashed and had optimal setups. And particularly when you get into stage 2+ stuff where it's a myriad of pulley ratios and whatnot, things that gets trickier and trickier to account for every combination.
Someone's asking if they need an upgraded low pressure fuel pump for stage 2 E85 on CREC.
We will let you know. We are in the middle of doing that right now.
Yeah.
So that's something we have to kind of evaluate and balance as we get closer to releasing that. So we will certainly advise if it's required.
You recommend your PRV hockey puck for high turbo cars that have a catch can, or do you recommend deleting the PRV and recirculating into the intake without the PRV for 180 engines? Because I just want to clarify, any of those PRVs that we sell are factory replacements. We started offering those years ago. We have really nice breather hose kits on the older cars. There's a lot of external crankcase breather hoses. Now Audi and Volkswagen have integrated all that stuff inside the block and head. But they used to be all hoses on the outside of the motor. And so we sell those hose kits, and then the PRV is an integral part of the hose kit. So we started offering that. We don't have a upgraded or high performance one. In general, I do recommend running the PRV, especially if you're in a smog controlled vehicle. You're going to need all that stuff. If you're building a race setup, you can delete all that stuff and do a catch can setup. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. B9 3-liter turbo, stage 1 plus E85. I'm due for new spark plugs. Are the stock ones fine, or are there better ones for E85?
We've had luck with both the brisk options and the stock stuff at that level.
Stage 1 plus
I wouldn't hesitate running either.
Yeah. The brisk, you can go cooler.
Yeah, it is a little cooler option, so we tend to try and steer most that way. They are going to be a quicker service interval. It's a what I would say a performance or race oriented plug, whereas the OEMs are much more of a long life style, but they're also way more expensive. So, if it were me, I would put the brisks in.
Hey guys, I just picked up a 2024 GTI. Never owned a VW, before, but I'm looking for a chill 93 tune. Is there anything I should know about your stage 1? Well, I wouldn't call our stage 1 tune chill. However, some aspects of it are chill. Like as far as reliability, drama, issues, you're going to be chill there. But as far as power and acceleration, it's not chill. It's going to make a lot of safe power. And you're going to be very happy with the performance of that tune. However, yeah, we do push the tune within what's safe as far as the available power headroom is in the car.
And we have multiple options of the file available. So we have a low torque option. I don't know what transmission you're on. But yeah, the low torque file, you can run either manual trans or with DSG. And we have our full beans file if you're on a manual, or if you can flash your TCU. 24 probably is going to be a locked TCU, but you can always check.
But if he's looking for chill, the low torque option is
it's always there. Yeah. There's no reason.
And another chill thing is you can just flash it using your phone. You don't have to figure out a laptop.
Yeah, just pick up one of our dongles, and you can load it up directly from your phone.
If you have any other questions, but one of the most popular Mark 8 tunes on the market, very well reviewed online. Lot of happy customers at this point, and we're as you get bored with the chill, there's going to be a lot more. There are even now. There's stage 3 options, big turbo options, and there's plenty. Oh, how do I run logs out of an OBD11 and I don't have that sort of information?
Yeah, you're not going to get it with an OBD11. We have it would be with our dongle in our software. We have a lot of custom firmware both on the ECU side that allows us to capture data much quicker and much more data that you can typically capture over normal OBD channels. And then our dongle is designed to deal with and work with all that with our app.
Do you guys plan on releasing lowering springs for the older cars such as Mark 6 GTI? So I'm glad you asked. We actually have a project. I don't think we even know.
I heard some rumorings on it. Yeah.
Yeah. We are bringing a whole line of our Dynamic Plus lowering springs to older applications, going back to PQ35 Mark 6, e-Golf springs.
Hey.
All
get my e-Golf signed.
Q3s, Tiguan's. What else, Sean? A3 2-liter, A3 VR6, Mark 4 R32, Mark 5 R32.
So some stuff in the works.
Yeah. So it's
Mark 5.
Mark 5.
PQ35.
Yeah. Mark 5, Mark 6. So we're excited to bring these applications to
Q3.
I think I got everything. Yeah, all the Q3s too.
Mark 4 R32 night.
Yeah. So because we have sway bars for these, but we don't have springs, and so a lot of times people are like, "I got your sway bars, I love them. What should I do for springs?" And it's like, I feel terrible just sending them out into the world to get God knows what. So hopefully we'll be releasing all those and available to ship in the next few months. So stay tuned for that if you'd like.
Busy.
Some of that 034 sauce for your older vehicle. We almost did B5 stuff. If you're listening out there and you'd like B5 springs, let me know. But that's pretty old at this point. So these guys aren't lying. I showed up unannounced last week due to some misfiring. Coil pack was bad. They swapped it for free. No questions asked. I paid nothing. Doubt anyone else is doing this. 034 has always stood behind everything they do, both parts and labor.
Yeah, I mean, we are
glad to hear.
just as much of a car enthusiast as all of our customers. We're here. We want to give you the best experience, the best just environment and place to be.
Yeah.
And you put your trust in us to get you set up with products and stuff for your car, so we certainly stand behind it.
Yeah, and we do stand behind our work. We're going on 20 years in business, and you don't have a great track record like that if you don't stand behind your products. And we've been in the same applications that whole time. And there's as a industry insider, there's a trick that a lot of companies do where they'll get really into, say, B8.5 S4s. And they'll release products and they won't stand behind their work. and there's just be one upset customer after the other. And it'll get to a point where the market is so cognizant of how bad they are that they bail. Maybe they'll go to Porsche 996 market. They got a whole new fresh start with a new group of customers, and they just jump. And you'll see companies do this. We have been in vintage Audi since day one. We still are. We still have probably the biggest, most complete product line for B5s out there. We've been selling Mark IV GTI products since 2005, and we still are. And many of the products we sell, we've been selling for almost 20 years. So, has there been problems with our products? Hell yeah. Have we fucked shit up? Absolutely. Are we a lot better company now than we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Yes.
But we've also fallen on our sword for what we have fucked up. Like we do everything we can to make it right on whatever avenue, whatever platform, whatever product. If we have an issue, we will bend over backwards to spend and do what it takes to make it right.
And honestly, it's not that expensive to stand behind your products. Let's say you ship 20 bad products and it's creating a terrible experience for those 20 customers. It could cost you a few $100. It could cost you $5,000. It's relatively cheap to stand behind your products. What's more expensive and difficult is gaining people's trust, gaining people's buying decisions. That's much, much harder than just fixing the problem for honestly not a lot of money. So yeah, I'd like to say it's a special thing, but it's really not. It's just basic way to run a business. And if you're out there and you're unhappy with something that we've done, please contact us and let us know so we can try to make it right. Is there documentation, or can you please explain why should a person go with 0 through 4 tune over another option? Well, I think my spiel just now was a good one.
That's one. I think the talk we had a little earlier, the tune specifically. I feel like we, in general, go probably the deepest into the technical and correct way to remap things, and much to some's chagrin, it takes a little longer sometimes to do it that way than to just get a tune to the market.
It might not be like one day on the dyno.
Yeah, no. Well, that's just the calibration, but actually we go in and we actually fix issues within the firmware, within the actual operating mechanisms of the ECU or TCU, and fix, either you run into limits and issues that, we don't want to work around or can't work around to have the end result that we want. So all of our torque is correct, calculated correctly, and your transmission shifts properly in all the situations, and everything's working in a OEM way with the same safety parameters, the same methods and controls and systems around it. So everything's seamless. It's a very OEM style experience when you're on one of our files. Is our idea. Yeah. It's like if this came from a tier 1 full high performance division is what we strive for.
That's right, as opposed to an aftermarket tuning shop.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to find a better engineered, more completely calibrated tune. We stand behind our products. You can go out there and ask people what they think. You can read the reviews on our website. But we are here every week answering these questions, opening ourselves up to any questions or criticism or compliments.
Yeah, those would be all right.
You guys can send in compliments too whenever you want. I don't look like Jason Statham today.
I don't think I do either, so I'm not sure where that
But now we're here to help. I know we have other clip outs where we've gone in depth about our tunes and calibrations and why they're better, so maybe the team can share some of those links as well. What could cause one side of the car to be higher than the other side after installing lowering springs? It's about a 1/4 inch difference, driver's side to passenger side, both front and rear. You want to make sure that the springs have some time to settle. So if you haven't driven the car for a couple weeks, do that. There are tolerances or ranges. A 1/4 inch is pretty small, right? So You're talking about a 1/4 inch difference is about what you'd see in a lot of factory cars as well. So that is probably within a reasonable. I mean, it's maybe slightly on the outside of the range, but a pretty reasonable range.
They don't say what car or application it is, but I mean, there's all kinds of things you also can maybe not realize what's going on is. If it's higher on the driver's side, it could be because you have a Quattro with a saddle tank, a gas tank. It's known as a saddle tank. It's a gas tank with basically 2 halves. And what those will do is if you're, below a full tank of any kind, it's actively always pumping fuel from the driver's side over to the passenger side. So you'll end up with like a lopsided amount of fuel on the passenger side. That's something that's easily overlooked. It could be, 3, 4, well, probably more than that, probably more like 5+ gallons that you would have sitting on essentially the passenger side of the car. So there's things like that can throw some weirdness into the mix for just general weight shifting in the car.
And all this assumes that everything's maintained properly and the spring seats are fully intact,
and then all your suspension components were torqued at ride height.
Yeah, sway bar preload, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. We talk about that all the time.
And it doesn't take much. A 1/4 inches, like John said, is really not much. So
it's a pretty small.
It doesn't take much to kind of shift things around that amount.
Yeah,
and there are some spring variants to it.
There's spring to spring variants. I mean, none of our springs sit perfectly. There's no spring.
Right?
You're talking about a coil spring compressing just the right amount so that the car sits, and then you've got a car that's not really symmetrically weighted either. So, but you can always email our tech support team if you have any more questions on that. We do get quite a bit of customers reaching out to us about height questions after they install springs. Would you guys ever reconsider renting dyno time for someone to use your dyno for tuning, or is that still fully occupied? No, we don't do that anymore. We currently have one dyno here at this facility, and it's always in use.
Yeah, renting dyno time is tricky because you can't really just rent dyno time. You have to have someone operating it. Otherwise, there's a huge amount of liability or issues when someone else who may not be familiar with the setup is running it. So no, it's something it is an engineering tool and resource that we need to use at all times.
Yeah, and the reality is we literally can't charge enough. I mean, if we charged the right price, it would be offensive.
Yeah, it would be. We would be shamed and.
Yeah, and I think most people are expecting to pay like $800 a day to run a dyno or something like that. We could not even touch that. It would be orders of magnitude higher than that. So
there are shops around that do. That is their model that they will run dynos.
Yeah, I mean their model is to not make very much money.
Well, it's that, and it's a different. Yeah, it may
help them pay the bill that month.
Yeah, and not speaking specifics, but so many times, and you see this in a lot of videos too. The dyno being run is just quick and dirty, just 3 pulls.
There's no airflow.
There's no airflow. There's no proper cool down. There's not even proper setup. They may not even know when the car, where it red lines, where it shifts. Or, traction control is still coming in.
I visited another tuning company recently, and they did a proper dyno cell with proper airflow into the dyno, high speed airflow, and then high flow evacuation. And they're almost $500,000.
It's insane. Yeah, no, it's
just
an incredible investment.
And crunch $100 into $500,000.
Right. Most shops, it's a dyno in the corner of a garage, with some carpet dryers blowing at it,
and that's $50,000 new to do something like that.
Yeah, depending on the brand. I mean, 30 and 50, but I mean, that's a vast majority of the dyno setups.
Mm-hmm. Is the 034 transmission mount insert worth the price difference versus one-off eBay or AliExpress? Yeah, we think so. First off, I have no idea what you're getting on eBay or AliExpress. It's possible that it will work. I have no idea. It's not a super complicated part, but it's also not as simple as it seems. The dimensions of the insert do need to be precisely designed to create the additional firmness in movement or the reduction in compliance in the mounts. But But if it's off at all, you're going to have excessive NVH. You could have actual hitting and shorting of vibrations directly from the transmission into the chassis, which you will feel. And then, you have a company that won't stand behind it, that isn't there to support you, that doesn't work tirelessly day and night to create new products for you and your vehicle. So I know anyone in China can spit out an insert for $20 or whatever. If that's who you want to support, go ahead. We're not able to do it for that price. We would lose money on every insert if we sold that. Not to mention we have customer service ready and waiting. We have a website with tracking information. We have warranties. We stand behind these products pretty much with a lifetime warranty.
We spent the time developing these parts.
We actually brought these products to market.
It's
so
a lot cheaper to grab one and try and copy it than it is to
and
sit there with a vehicle and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and another telling thing is we don't need to sell them for that cheap. Even if we could, we sell so many inserts at the prices that we list because customers believe in our brand, they trust us, and they want the best for a very fair, reasonable price. So we actually have trouble making them fast enough at the current prices, so we don't have to whore stuff out on the market. And if you're just some random eBay seller, some Chinese factory, you're not going to be able to compete with us. No one's going to buy your that insert for the same price as ours. So you literally have to be 1/4 the price, and then God only knows what you're getting at that point. Another thing Chinese companies do, they cast aluminum,
yes,
and then they go back and machine
they
it.
skim it
Because billet's expensive, compared to just melting scrap aluminum. So you get a really poor quality product as well.
It is fun walking up to their booths though when we're at trade shows.
Yeah,
asking what the part fits.
Mm-hmm. They don't even know.
No idea.
Someone says the 034 transmission mount is drastically tighter and fills the mount better than the Amazon version. I can verify.
Yeah, and exactly. Who knows what you're buying and how many, what QC, if any, there is applied to it. What machine? Yeah, you don't know what you get.
Yeah, you're getting it from the source, from the company that created it, from the company that understands intimately what the part does. We're not here to sell cheap stuff. This company wouldn't exist if we were just trying to sell cheap crap. Our stuff costs more, and it's not for no reason. I think I had a good spiel a week or two ago about the insert magically showing up, floating in front of your front door, There's a lot that goes into supplying this insert. It's not just about how much a piece of billet this big costs. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Are the 034 rear subframe inserts worth doing? Yeah, it depends. I think if you're just looking for a relatively nice handling car that's just comfortable and quick, not necessarily. If you're looking for every last ounce of performance, if you want to launch the hardest that you can, if you want all that power to go directly into the tires and not load up the subframe.
If you're on track, it comes in play when you're really heavily loaded in corners. You can, it helps keep the alignment where it's supposed to be.
The feedback's actually very good from customers who install them. They definitely do have a role in increasing performance. But it's not one of the most noticeable mods that you can do. And it's also quite a bit of work to do it. So I would leave you with that. If that's something that sounds good to you, definitely do it. But there's other things you could do that will probably be more noticeable if you're not really looking to get everything. I'm having an issue with the fitment of an O1E metal throwout bearing. Is there a proper way to sit it? It should just click into the bracket and just float on the input shaft sleeve there.
There's not a lot to that one. It could be that your arm itself is worn, maybe. I don't know.
Shoot an email to tech support at 034motorsport.com. We'll be happy to take a look at it. What's the best first mod for the B8.5? It's got to be a tune.
Tune is going to be
bang for
bang for the buck.
And the car could use more power. So.
Yep. Tune, then supporting mods, and then I'd say sway bars, and then springs, wheels.
Yeah, but start with a tune if
Tune's going to be probably not.
you're looking for the quickest way to make the car quick.
Yeah, and stage 2 TCU is worth it, even on a stock or stage 1 car. The remapped TCU goes a long way in your driving experience and enjoyment.
Can you explain sway bar preload and why you don't want it? Yeah, so a sway bar is a suspension device that helps equalize the load from the left and right suspension movements, and so ideally, when the car is sitting, let's say just sitting still, not moving, but it could be driving in a straight line, the sway bar will not have any preload or force on either side of it. What happens when you have preload is, let's say you install your sway bar and you hook the end link up on the left side of the suspension. When you go to the right side of the suspension, the bolt for the end link should just slide right in and be easy to install.
This is assuming you've got weight on the wheels and everything is
yeah, this is what the car's
sitting in its normal static position.
Yeah. If you have to twist or pull the bar up or down to get the bolt to line up, you've now initiated or created preload in the bar. This could be for a lot of reasons. It could be because the sway bar already has a little bit of a twist in it, which can happen during the manufacturing process. It could be that there's a difference in the left and right suspension. It could be one side of the car sitting higher or lower than the other. Could be one of your end links is bent or something. So in most cases, we offer adjustable end links to help take this preload out. A little bit of preload's not a big deal, but if you really have to like apply a lot of force to get things to line up, then you've now added some spring force to one side of the suspension, and it's not the end of the world, but it's not an optimal ideal situation because your sway bar is already in tension.
And you're going to have different left to right characteristics. If it's preloaded, it's going to behave differently. You've got to unload it first and then get into its other basically twisting direction.
That's a real quick description. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like somebody sitting on the front of the bumper and pulling up one side and pushing down on the other at all times.
Yeah. All right, we'll probably have time for one more. Question about GPF Australia stuff.
Someone's asking if we have any new tunes or products coming to the B8 or 8.5 platform. We have a lot of stuff in the mix right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
I don't want to go into too many details,
Yeah.
but there's a lot coming.
It's a disguised update question too. S4 Stage 2 is too much backfire and burble bad in some way? No, I mean,
it depends on what we're defining as too much.
I mean, if your car is functioning normally and the tune is functioning normally,
Is this on our tune though, or is it any tune?
yeah. Well, if you have a bad tune, then yes, it's bad.
Right.
But if you have a good tune like ours, then the ECU is going to control the amount of burbling and protect the cat, and as the ECU is already monitoring the temperature of the catalyst.
Yeah. If you're going
you can't do too much. The ECU will step in and there's a safety measure there.
Yeah, if you're going full like BMW and you're out there just crackling for a half hour at a time with gunshots, that's not what our tune's set up to do.
Yeah. Having a terrible time trying to find an oil dipstick for my 2024 S5 Sportback. I don't know anything about that.
Audi doesn't think you need dipsticks anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure it seems like something ECS would sell, but I'm sure
they've done a bunch of them.
Somebody out there has something. Definitely a nice thing to have. Does it truly matter whether you stick with 0W20 or 5W40 oil?
You're going to end it on a loaded question.
Yeah.
So we have to date not seen any oil related or oil viscosity related issues. I'm assuming this is B9 they're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do recommend running the 540 on like stage 3 stuff.
Well, as a requirement. Just because it's a higher load.
It makes more sense. It's more of the intent. The purpose of that motor now is kind of designates that you should run a proper oil for it. So, but no, to date we haven't. I don't think we've seen a single oiling issue on any of those.
No, we haven't. Nothing seems related to oil. There are engine failures out there, but none of it points to the oil weight.
Right.
So yeah, no, and yeah, 540 isn't that much thicker.
It's not like it's going
020.
crazy here. No,
No,
but
in practice, very simple.
Yep.
So can't hurt to run the 540. But yeah, don't stress about it. All right, I think that's pretty much it for questions. So cheers, everybody. I think we'll see you guys next week.